For the month of October, we're looking at 5 horror and Halloween classics to determine if they are required viewing. This week, we're taking a return trip within the woods with Sam Raimi's acclaimed horror comedy sequel, Evil Dead 2. Having barely survived his first night battling deadites in a remote cabin in the woods, Ash finds himself trapped within its clutches until the daughter of its mysterious owner returns with new pages from the Necronomicon Ex Mortes that may give them a fighting chance to avoid death by dawn. Considered by many to be the best of the Evil Dead films, which, to the franchise's credit, can be said for any of the 3 films, depending on your point of view, Evil Dead 2 is perhaps the ultimate horror comedy. Even ranking, and I kid you not, even ranking a top 50 of Empire's 2008 greatest movies of all time list.
What?
It's true. Permanently cementing the word groovy into the lexicon of nerds the world over. The film ramps up the effects, the gore, the dismemberments, and the ever-faithful chin of its superstar Bruce Campbell, all mixed together in a bloody blend of brilliance with one notable added element: comedy. This is a hilarious film, despite the fact that it's also dark and cruel as cheese.
Kind of like you hosting this show. Wait, what?
Where do you think I got my inspiration from? But
Hail to the king. Oh, wait, wrong movie.
I'm not even kidding when I say that it ramps up the ever-faithful chin of its superstar, because I think his chin is far more developed and prominent in this film than it was in the original.
It sure was, actually. You're right.
As we mentioned before, you had actually seen some parts of Evil Dead before we filmed that episode. You had never seen Evil Dead 2. I think you were familiar with some of the iconography of Evil Dead 2, more specifically Chainsaw Hand and Groovy. Possibly because I've made some jokes about Ash and Old Yeller. Check it out in the links below. But now that you've seen it, what do you think of Evil Dead 2?
Well, and you mentioned some of the stuff I knew about. Listen, I had no idea how much Bruce Campbell inspired Duke Nukem. And you know what, Demosthenes? I'm okay with that shiz. Anyways, so I gotta say, going into this movie, there is a lot of undue violence on the beautiful chin and face of Bruce Campbell. I really, at some point, almost thought of rewatching the movie and like doing a video of me watching it with a right in the face counter. Like, I just talking about how many broken dishes followed by right in the face took place is ridiculous. Right in the face, 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 right in the face. First of all, I never thought somebody beating the shit out of themselves with China was something that I would find horrifying and yet humorous. I have no idea how this movie bridges that gap. Check that. Toes that line so awesomely, for lack of a better word. Like, there is no reason for this movie to be that funny, and at the same time, there is no reason for this movie to be that big rock scary. It doesn't make Chewbacca is Wookiee. He lives on Endor, which is the home of the Ewoks. It just doesn't make any sense. Well, you have to point out. You obviously you just alluded to this, but Bruce Campbell's performance here is a clear showcase for the actor. It's impressively physical. He flips himself over by the collar violently in one scene. That scene alone is probably what got him the role of Briscoe County Jr. On top of that, throw in a dire mix of pathos and hilarity by default. There you go.
It's been said that the comedy in this film was inspired by the Three Stooges. But hell, one wouldn't expect the actor to play all 3 of the Stooges with himself
at the same time. By the way, side note, when he makes himself flip over, you mentioned that's how he got the part for Briscoe County. No, sir. That's how he was cast for the role of Autolycus, because they knew at that point he could handle the physical demands of playing the Master of Thieves.
No, they saw that scene. They saw Evil Dead and said, we can save a lot of money on stunt doubles. That hand fight alone is an absolute spectacle, replete with hand POV shots, which I absolutely love.
Well, that's the thing. Like you're mentioning the Three Stooges. What came into my head as the default, not thinking of Low Mary or Curly. I guess we're inclusive now. No, Mo, Larry, or Curly is like something out of like, you know, like the old 90s YouTube video spin-off thing of the Juggernaut bitch. Because like all I could think of is when somebody got hit, pimp smack your ass, bitch. Pah! You know, and like there's one part where Sam Ash is running away from the spirit.
Sam Axe.
Damn it, I did it again. Sam Axe is running through, it's Ash because it's Sam Ash Williams. That's what I'm calling it. Where Ash is running through the house and like he's bowling doors over. And one, he actually runs through a door. And when he did that, I couldn't help but scream out loud, "Yeah, it's a Juggernaut, bitch." You know, so that's where my mind went as far as something that was so slapsticky. But by the same token, again, suspenseful, had me, you know, thinking horror and being, you know, it brought gravity. I was scared in a lot of it, you know, man.
But, you know, the thing about that one shot, and it's near the opening of the film where he does get chased by the monstrous POV through the house. Another escalation from the previous film. It is funny, it is unexpected, but it also smartly sets up the geography for the scares later on. You know exactly the way this house looks. You know exactly the way it's laid out. You know exactly what kind of dangers could be lurking behind those particular corners. It's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
The other gag in there that, and we talked about this in production, is the open of the movie itself, right? It is supposed to be a recap of the first movie. Since Ash saw some cheese, you didn't think he'd be dumb enough to go back. Not to mention, I thought the spirit caught him. What the hell is going on? It's a recap. Sure, this time they left Scott and Shelley and Cheryl. What? It's called budget, people.
Exactly, actually. That's exactly the reason.
Because the most horrifying thing in any movie is a lack of
Moose Hunter
budget. No.
Well, I think we should set this straight. A lot of people have certain misconceptions about this film. Even Bruce Campbell has gone on record many times trying to correct this, and yet people keep making this mistake. This film is not a remake. This film, although satirical of the first film, is not a satire remake of the first film. And no, Ash didn't enjoy his first visit so much, he decided to go back with another girlfriend named Linda, who he cut up the same way and buried.
It was also an incredible bout of coincidence, an alum of Michigan State.
They didn't have the rights to reuse the footage from the original film, so they did this quick recap. In fact, the actual story, brand new story of Evil Dead 2, the sequel story, picks up about 7 minutes into the film, where he gets hit by the supernatural POV force. That's where it picks up, and he passes out. Unfortunately passes out and misses his one window of escape and wakes up 10 minutes before the fastest sunset of all time.
Oh, come on. Yeah, exactly. No, and by the way, side note, Demon Ash, or Deadite Ash rather, pretty scary.
What did you think were you expecting that at all?
I did not expect that trash. And I'm like, oh my God, wait a minute. There's nobody here who gives a falling rock. Like, okay. So
the rest of the film would be Demon Ash, Bruce Campbell, Deadite Ash, Bruce Campbell, wandering through the woods, tormenting squirrels.
Deadite Winnie the Pooh with Ash Williams as Christopher Robin. I mean, jeez. Now what?
Oh, bother.
Damn it, you people. Oh, bother. You know, say, Ash, your eyes are pretty messed up right there. You know.
Eeyore's tail spontaneously comes to life and attacks him.
No, that's why Eeyore has no tail.
There we go.
He was the one who found the chainsaw first.
Eeyore with the chainsaw tail. I think we're onto something here. Hail to the chief. We've talked a lot about the comedy in this film. I mean, honestly, this is what distinguishes Evil Dead 2. Successfully adding comedy to such a genre film is a very rare delicate balance that very, very few films have ultimately succeeded at.
Not only is it unique, it's unique because no motherfucker is dumb enough to try it.
But that's the thing. What makes the addition work in this endeavor is that Evil Dead 2 never sacrifices the scares for the sake of laughter. The ghouls aren't the joke. Rather, they're the ones playing the joke on Ash with a cruel twist. Make no mistake, despite the uproar, Evil Dead 2 hit some dark places, and I think that cruel is a precise word to use here. The total abuse of Ash early in this film sets a foundation for that heroic rise later on. His groovy moment, that groovy moment, is not one of pure delivery. It's the character ascending beyond his demonic tormentors. And despite that, the moment he does show up with the chainsaw hand and you're like, he's ready to kick ass, he's immediately knocked unconscious.
There are no perfect men in this world, only perfect intentions. Listen, when he cuts his hand off, did anybody else think about Bruce Campbell and Ash Williams are the B-movie Luke Skywalker?
That entire scene is just from the way it's shot, from the fact that it follows on Bruce Campbell perfectly beating himself up, as nobody has ever beat themselves up on film before, following what is, in many ways, one of the more genuine looking bouts of nervous breakdown I've ever seen. It kind of plays around, and this is something I really liked, and it's something that's expanded on the show Ash vs. Evil Dead later on, if this could possibly all be happening in his head, where he sees Linda dancing like the real Nightmare Before Christmas outside the window, and he suddenly jolts himself up from the rocking chair. I like the fact that it kind of plays around with that, even for a moment. It really does keep you, just as the character, at the edge of your seat.
You know, I like how it plants that seed that it might just be kind of a vision, or that it might just be something that he is all in his head, and it's all kind of still kind of mysterious like that, until the naked body runs through the wall with the fireball chainsaw.
until her head lands in his lap.
Yes.
Which I'm sure is a pun for something.
Hey, listen, I'm just damn glad that she bit his finger. That's all I'm saying.
Early on, it sets the tone. There are equal parts comedy and equal parts horror in this film. And a lot of the setup could go either way. It could be something horrific, or it could be something comedic. So it always keeps you at the edge of your seat, nervously laughing along, not knowing if you're about to jump out of that seat or roll back into it laughing. And it's one of the reasons why this film is as engaging as it is. I like some of the callbacks to the first film. I like the mirroring of the mirror scene. It comes right through. You don't expect that at all. It's set up perfectly for it to be a genuine surprise. Yep. And it's punctuated by one of the funniest lines in the movie.
We just cut up our girlfriend with a chainsaw. Does that sound fine?
Closest thing I've seen to this, oddly enough, Demos, follow me on this, is in the bathroom scene in the courthouse of Liar, Liar. That's the only thing I've seen anything close to that. And what is that? Not a horror film, you know.
From his perspective, I would argue, the one scene that completely misses the mark, it's the only scene I'm not a fan of. And it's only due to the fact that it feels very repetitive of the first film. And it doesn't add anything new, in my opinion, other than some close-up gore effects. And it's the other #Tree2 scene. It misses its mark completely with me, because it's the only scene that doesn't feel like it's an escalation of the first film. In fact, except for
from that, though, that's the problem.
Then why put it in? Because it's far tamer than the first film, other than the close-up gore effects. That's correct.
You're not wrong. I just you say that, and that was just a reflex. Like, that was a jump scare in my own brain. Like, and there's no escalation. What's left?
I think I was thinking about that scene, because it's a scene that's bothered me for a while now, ever since I saw the film for the first time. I'm like, why is that there, other than because it's one of the most notorious scenes from the first film? And I think it's there because it conceals the surprise that Ash is possessed again later. Because as Cletus, as you say, is standing there yelling, Bobby Joe, and you see the trees the sentient trees hovering around, you're expecting her to pop up because you've already seen what happened to Cheryl in the first film. She's the first to be possessed after she's possessed, and then Nash is the one that pops up. I think that is the ultimate purpose. But let's get to the big question. Is Evil Dead 2 required viewing? Now, to recap, Kyle said that the original Evil Dead was, I would dare say, highly recommended.
Mm-hmm.
I said it was required. What do you say of Evil Dead 2?
So what we often notice with me consistently is a movie has to have two things, among others, to actually get my attention. One, a good antagonist, and good could take any form, obviously. And I think the Deadites and all of that, even Ash himself achieves that. Again, I think I said ride the fires at least 6 times when he's beating the shit out of himself with China.
I've never admired self-mutilation more.
That's a great way to put it, Panda. Anyways, that leading us to the legend that is the chainsaw hand and all of that. But the ending was so off the Goofy's bath toy wall until Ash Williams begins to respond to the random praise he's getting by the armored knights who came seemingly out of nowhere after he used his sawed-off shotgun to blast some damn demon in the face. And they're all like, you are the chosen one who will lead us in the war against the Deadites. Yay! And all he could do is go, no, no, no. Let me translate. To bitch read the book. Why am I still fighting Deadites? This is worse than anything else I could have gotten at this point at the end of the movie. I know you had to do some censoring there, but the point is that was awesome. Yeah, I'm going to do it. This is required, Demosthenes. For those who are like, but you said it was physically unsettling to watch Evil Dead. The comedy balanced it out and took the edge off. Listen, every good mojito has the proper amount of sugar in it and mint. Betchos, know your role.
I agree on that point. And that's exactly the reason why, although I'm not getting to my answer quite yet, that's exactly the reason why this is my favorite out of the 3. I enjoy watching this the most. The first one is by far the most intense. It's intended to be horrific, and it succeeds at being horrific. This film, I enjoy it a lot more. I don't necessarily think, and I know this might be controversial, I don't necessarily think it's better than their first film. I think that the first film is overall constructed much tighter, yet by design, its setups hit as many comedic beats as they do horror beats. As I said earlier in the review, what makes this film truly work is that the various expected horror setups are instead punctuated by comedy and vice versa, giving it a genuine thrill of the unexpected. Will it be a laugh or the most horrific scene you could possibly imagine? Or both?
Who the hell knows?
Bruce Campbell it's a tour de force performance. It is one that I admire. I can't think of a better example. I can think of other examples, but I can't think of a better example of a horror comedy than Evil Dead 2. Almost for that alone, I have to say that it's required viewing.
I like how you mix it up and try to put some goulash in there to make it
unexpected.
You weren't going to, but the experience was too great.
As horrific as Evil Dead 2 is, at the end of the day, it can't be argued that it's not hilarious by default. My last question for the evening is this. So you recommended Evil Dead and you require Evil Dead 2. Now, since Evil Dead 2, by chance of the recap at the beginning, could be viewed as its own entity, do you think that you have to watch Evil Dead before Evil Dead 2?
Yes, I do, but I think it could be consumed without it as well. But I think the best experience, best if served before, because just for itself, the payoff of the chainsaw, you have got to see the movie and have him change his mind about mutilating Linda in order to absorb all that. But and because it's so weird, but that doesn't happen because this is the thing that I know it's odd. Let's not even get into that, nerds.
So Evil Dead is not retroactively required because Evil Dead 2 is required.
No, they're too different. They're too different of an experience to say that. No. And I like where you're going. It's not so much that it's required as it is a prerequisite, but I would say no. It's a better experience. I'd strongly recommend seeing the recommended before the required, but nonetheless, because they do enough, they give you the chalk outline. Wisely done by. If you're stuck in this position, they did this as best as they could. I thought you got a chalk outline of a chainsaw. Good acting once again by Bruce Campbell. Looks confused enough to be like, this motherfucker should be here. Like anybody.
Well, because he moved it in the first film, it wasn't there anymore.
That's the point. Yes, yeah. I'm aware of that. But that's the joke. That's the joke you and I got seeing this movie first. What I'm saying is, even if you don't have that, you can tell that he expected it to be there, especially if you happen to have been married. And this goes whether, you have a wife, husband, or whatever, or wherever on the gender spectrum you put yourself. If you've had a significant other that moves around on you and you got there and you're like, is the chainsaw, and then a naked body comes out through a door holding the
naked decapitated body.
Thank you. So yes, still a good setup nonetheless.
Before you started doing Hilarity by Default, did you ever consider that one day you'd be sitting here telling the world that a film involving a decapitated, naked, undead body wielding a chainsaw would be a film that everybody has to see?
No idea.
Then all I can say is, you're welcome.
Hey, it's your day to say you're welcome.